Welcome to the InfoWars Nightly News. I'm your host, Rob Dew, and today's date is November 19th, 2014, and here's a look at what's in store.
Tonight, a 10-year-old boy gets suspended from school for pointing an imaginary ray gun. Plus, the government surveillance dragnet is now eating its own. Former CIA analyst Ray McGovern joins Rob Dew. That's up next on the InfoWars Nightly News.
I want to start off tonight's show with a couple articles from the Washington Post. The first one, and this is from Glenn Kessler, explainer. What Gruber meant when he said if CBO scored mandate as taxes, the bill dies. Now, you've seen the video out there that's been all over the internet of this Jonathan Gruber character saying if CBO scored the mandate as taxes, the bill dies. Well, this explainer article, also listed as fact checker, goes on to talk about how, you don't really understand what he meant. You're too stupid, once again, to understand what he really meant. And this is what they say what he meant. Let's go to the facts section. CBO's perspective, the mandate penalty called in the law is a shared responsibility payment and was always deemed to be revenue. The mandate was considered an involuntary payment and would thus be considered government revenue. So you see, it's not taxes, it's an involuntary payment, which is government revenue. That sounds like a lot of wordsmithing to me. It goes on to describe why it's not considered taxes. Because if the consumer is likely to be able to choose among a number of insurance plans with different degrees of comprehensiveness, if there are plans with different levels of coverage, that will cover a broad enough range to offer the consumer a meaningful choice, is the consumer likely to be able to choose among several different insurance companies competing on price? Well, yeah, you are going to get to compete among different insurance companies, but they're all basically offering you the same screw job. You know, it's going to be higher deductibles, higher co-payments, higher everything, higher premiums, higher monthly payments. Everything's going to go up under Obamacare. Why? Because we're now going to pay for more people that can't pay for themselves under this bloated healthcare system. So instead of actually looking at the healthcare system and trying to fix it, what we're going to do is, well, I don't want to call it taxes because the explainer didn't call it taxes. They called it government revenue, and it's an involuntary payment and also a shared responsibility payment. So it's not taxes. Then here's the second article from the Washington Post. This is a little more based on fact. We also linked it on NoWorldOrder.com. Thanks to Jonathan Gruber for revealing the Obamacare deception. This is from Mark Thyssen. In a new video that surfaced Friday, Gruber explains that the Obama administration passed the so-called Cadillac tax on they use the tax again, high-value employer health plans by mislabeling it and calling it a tax on insurance plans rather than a tax on the people. We know it's a tax on the people who hold these insurance plans, of course. We just tax the insurance companies. They pass on the higher prices. It ends up being the same thing. The ruse, Gruber says, was very clever, basic exploitation, and with the lack of the economic understanding of the American voter. So here you got two articles from the same newspaper saying completely different things. One trying to say, well, they're just picking about one thing that he said and saying, oh, he really didn't mean that. This is what he really meant, which is total BS. And then the article by Mark Thyssen saying, look, there's more. He totally thinks you're stupid. And basically, we are stupid. We're stupid for letting them pass this. We're stupid for not holding the Republicans accountable for getting it repealed. So what are they doing? They're voting on the Keystone Pipeline again, which is probably going to get shelved by the Senate or vetoed by the president. They're not going after Obamacare, and they never will go after Obamacare. They're going to keep this in because, well, back in was 2008, Gruber was visited at Obama's office, and he was called the Democratic Party's most influential healthcare expert. He was also working with Romney to get Romneycare passed. So this guy was working for both sides of the same team, essentially, even though you think it's two different teams. But what does this mean for me and you? Well, the article out of Zero Hedge Today says it all. One reader's shocked response upon learning his health insurance cost just doubled. The cost goes from $281 a month to $555 a month, an increase of $274 or 97%. So my wife and I own a small business. We've been buying health insurance on our own for ourselves and our two kids. The cost was about $600 per month with a $5,200 deductible and a $6,800 total out-of-pocket expense for a family of four. After spending months trying to register for the Affordable Care Act in late 2013 and early 2014, my kids got put on our state's insurance at no cost, and my wife and I bagged an ACA policy at a subsidized cost of $281 per month. Well, now they've been notified that it's going up to $555 per month, an increase of 97%. And that's not all. We've shown other articles where people's premiums were going up astronomical rates, upwards of 500%. We also got an email from our whistleblower hotline, and I want to show it to you. I've blocked out their email and telephone number. I sympathize with the reader who saw their health insurance rates go up so dramatically. Me, my wife, and I also saw our rates go way up. They went from $740 a month to over $1,430 a month, and the deductible is the worst part. The health ends companies have raised our deductible so far. The health insurance is nothing more than catastrophic insurance. So we pay $380 more a month for a basic health insurance plan, plus we have to put a roof over our head, and then we have a $6,000 deductible looming in the background. And that's all their upfront cost, and that's the big scam about insurance. So on top of the premiums that you're paying each month, you're also going to have a really high deductible that you have to meet before the insurance even kicks in. It's going to be $6,000. Some people it's $10,000. You're lucky if it's under $3,000. So really, anything you go in for, you're never going to meet that deductible. Or if you do, then after that, they're only going to pay a certain percentage. So you're still going to be paying. This is a total screw job, and we've been handed this, and I'm going to go ahead and say it now. Next week, I'm going to do that report. There's a couple companies out there, and they're not even companies. I don't even want to call them companies. They're kind of like membership clubs where you pay in a membership fee, and your fee goes directly to people to pay for their insurance or for their medical costs. And let me tell you, it's way better than Obamacare. It's grandfathered in under the Affordable Care Act, so anybody can get into this. And I'm going to explain it all next week because it's time that we start fighting back by opting out of this system. And not opting out so we get another penalty that we have to pay, or an involuntary payment, as the Washington Post likes to call it. So that'll be next week. Let's get into some economic news in the rest of this segment. This was from Michael Schneider of Economic Collapse Forum. 3 of the 10 largest economies in the world have already fallen into recession. Is the U.S. next? 3 of the 10 largest companies on the planet have already fallen into recession. 6 years on from the financial crash that brought the world to its knees, red light warnings once again are flashing on the dashboard of the global economy. That was Prime Minister David Cameron. So why are people freaking out? Well, the economy of Japan, the 3rd largest economy in the entire planet, is a total basket case at this point. Many believe the Japanese will be on the leading edge of the next great global economic crisis. That's why it's so alarming that Japan has dipped into recession again for the 4th time in 6 years. The next nation on there is Brazil. Brazil has the 7th largest economy on the globe and has already fallen into recession for quite a few months. You've seen the inflation going out of there, the blackouts, everything. That's what you get when you get a socialist economy. And then the 9th largest economy in the world, Italy, has also fallen into recession. But it gets better. They also look at the unemployment rates of different countries in Europe. So let's go to that list. We got France at 10.2%, Poland at 11.5%, Italy at 12.6%, Portugal at 13.1%, Spain and Greece over 20%. Spain's at 23.6%, Greece at 26.4%. Of course, they tell you the unemployment rate in the United States is hovering around 5%, but we know that's a bunch of bull. We know there's people out there who aren't even looking anymore for jobs. That's why they're not being registered as unemployment, because their unemployment's run out and they're not asking for any more, and they're not going out and looking for more jobs. They're just kind of falling into this pit of despair. And another signpost on that is this article out of the Associated Press. Number of homeless children in America surges to an all-time high. A report estimated 2.5 million children have been homeless at some point in 2013. The number of homeless children in the U.S. has surged in recent years to an all-time high, amounting to 1 child in every 30, according to a comprehensive state-by-state report that blames the nation's high poverty rate, the lack of affordable housing, and the impacts of pervasive domestic violence. You also have the over 50 million families that are on food stamps. You have most families that are living paycheck to paycheck, meaning if they get sick or if anything happens to them, they're going to be out on the street. We are teetering on the edge of an economic collapse. And what is the solution? Well, the solution is to go after the people that actually did this, that actually caused the economy to go into this downward spiral, the too big to fails that we're afraid to go after. And our guest coming up is going to talk a little bit about that and why they're unable to go after them. But here is a solution. It's a quick article out of National Business, and this is from Iceland. Sincerely, the banker's name is Sincerely. sentenced to 12 months of imprisonment. Sincerely, T.H. Arnson, former CEO of Lebanski, was sentenced to 12 months in prison by the District Court of Reykjavik today. So this is what we have to do. We have to put the bankers in prison when they steal from us, when they rob us blind, when they launder drug money. They have to go to jail. That's the only solution to this. And I want to end this segment on a bit of a positive note. Alex Jones filed this report today up on our YouTube channel. It's titled Universe of Incredible Wonder. So we're going to go to this report as we go to break, and then we'll be back with a couple more special reports. And then we've got an interview with CIA analyst Ray McGovern talking about FBI surveillance and how it relates to you out there and how the system is now finally starting to eat its own under this big bureaucratic weight of spying. Stay tuned.
Well, you're only alive once, and we live in a universe of incredible wonder. That's what it comes down to. And all I'm trying to get people to do is to realize that there is an anti-human agenda to shutter our windows of perception, of consciousness. There is a conscious, public, global program to dumb you down and to try to limit the capacity and success of humans. And the corporate interests that are monopoly men are manipulating all the major political parties of the planet right now. And they are using the fact that we're individuals to atomize us so that we can't come together around basic tenets of human liberty and defeat them. But there is a human will, a human group consciousness that is aware of this, and there's a huge awakening, 10,000 times bigger and more real than something like Fight Club, that is cultural in nature, not violent, that will bring them down. So just tonight, look at that beautiful spotlights up there into the universe and just think about all the amazing things that are out there and realize that you're not junk, you're not crap, and the globalists don't control you and your life. That's what it comes down to. I want all of you to think about that out there tonight. And I know what I'm saying is just basic information, but think about it. Alex Jones signing off for Infowars.com.
Introducing the first proprietary oxygen-based intestinal cleanser, OxyPowder, backed by FDA-approved phase 1, 2, and 3 clinical trials. All the toxins from the air, the food, the water ultimately ends up in the gut or affects the gut. Take your health into your own hands and start cleansing your body today with OxyPowder. Secure your OxyPowder today at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.
I began to get into iodine a few years ago because it was helping me and my family so much get healthy and detoxify. I believe our research is conclusive. This is the best iodine out there. And I know this for a fact. Nobody else has got iodine based on these pure crystals, ladies and gentlemen.
For a limited time, experience the ancient power of Survival Shield X2. Take advantage of this unprecedented 30% off Super Detox Special at InfoWarsLife.com.
You haven't heard much Ebola news in the news lately, and that's either due to two things. Either there's no more Ebola cases, or they're hiding the fact that there are Ebola cases to keep people from panicking. We got a case in point here. This is from Paul Joseph Watson today. New York City woman on Ebola watch list dies bleeding from mouth. Authorities say heart attack. Happens all the time. A woman who returned from Guinea 18 days ago and was on the Ebola monitoring list dropped dead in a Brooklyn hair salon yesterday after eyewitnesses said she began bleeding from the mouth and nose, but authorities later asserted that the cause of death was an apparent heart attack. FDNY activated the special operations and hazmat units after the woman who had traveled to Guinea 3 weeks ago, according to a source on the scene, died at Amy Professional African Hair Braiding in the Brownsville area of Brooklyn, reports the Daily Mail. Despite eyewitnesses reporting there was blood coming from the woman's face, nose, and mouth, health authorities claim that she had not displayed any Ebola symptoms and, in fact, had died of a heart attack. The woman, who is in her 40s, is being tested for Ebola, and the results will be announced later today. The salon was later decontaminated by hazmat, but people were allowed to walk in and out of the area while it was being decontaminated because, of course, that's what you do when you think you might have an Ebola case. Let people walk in and out of there. Let them step in the vomit. Let them pick it up. Who cares? Rub it all over you, just like Ebola did in that crazy video we played once here on the InfoWars Nightly News. And who knows what's going on with Ebola? We're going to find out soon. I will tell you this. I've been getting a lot of emails on the whistleblower hotline of people saying they're bringing people in. They think it's Ebola. They're keeping it hush-hush. I'll call some of these hospitals. The PR people, administrators go, oh, no, we didn't bring anybody in. And then I'll call the source and say, hey, they said they didn't bring anybody in. They're like, no, they're at this door, and this is the code name they're giving them. And then I'll call the person back, and I don't get any calls back after that. So it's really weird. I don't know how many cases they are hiding. I'm sure they're hiding a lot. We've had reports from doctors of them whisking patients away. We've had reports down at the border they're whisking people away. We've had reports of people coming from Africa crossing over illegally. Who knows what is really going on, because we aren't getting the truth from the mainstream media, as we showed you earlier from that Washington Post article. But let's go on to this totally ridiculous bit of news. This is from Steve Watson. 10-year-old suspended for pointing imaginary ray gun. So it wasn't even a real ray gun, it was just imaginary. In a now all too familiar scenario, a fifth grader has been suspended in Massachusetts, of course, after pointing an imaginary ray gun and saying, pow. 10-year-old Nicholas Taylor was suspended for 2 days by officials at Stacy Middle School in Milford following an incident which took place in the cafeteria. Nicholas, who has no history of bad behavior, is said to have cut in line in the lunch queue and mouthed laser sounds coming from an imaginary ray gun, otherwise identified as his own finger, pointed at the other students in line. Nicholas told reporters that he was not pointing the weapon at any other students, but he was simply amusing himself. How dare he do that? Poor Nicholas. I mean, it just shows you how out of control it's gotten. Okay? We're going to let people walk through possible Ebola messes in hair salons, but somebody does this and goes, meow, meow, meow. We're going to suspend them from school? What is that teaching our kids? You have to ask yourself, well, it's teaching them to be slaves. It's teaching them to line up, be subservient to authority. I want to go to this oldie but goodie. This is a report we put out in January 25th, 2013, titled, Alex Jones Goes on Armed Rampage with Bubble Gun. Oh my gosh, this is an oldie but goodie that we produced. We'll be right back after this with an interview from Ray McGovern. It's the InfoWars Nightly News, and I'm your host, Rob Dew.
You rolling? Yep. Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming here for the staff meeting. Alex will be joining us in just a few minutes. I'd like to thank my new assistant, Rob Dew, who's been demoted for this purpose. Now, I have a few stories I'd like to go over, but first, Darren McBreen, what do you have there?
Well, it's kind of interesting. The Chinese government recommends that our government starts confiscating.
Hold on, sorry I'm late. Look at this.
Whoa, Alex. Hey, man, what's going on?
Check it out, man. We've got that office party, and I gave presents to all the kids at the Christmas party. I'm thinking that office party coming up. I'm thinking we'll have these as party favors. Check this out.
Alex,
you guys acting weird for me.
Hey. Alex, I have this article.
That's a bubble gun.
A 5-year-old girl was suspended after a terroristic threat when she brought a pink bubble gun, just like that.
What is this, a prank or something? We're supposed to be having a meeting.
No,
That's a bubble gun.
You can't have that stuff, Alex. You can't.
Is that a safety?
What are you guys freaking out
You can't bring that around,
Alex,
Alex.
that is a fully automatic bubble gun.
Listen, Jakari, I know you're joking. There's no story.
All right, look, Alex.
Hold on. Let me talk to Melissa. Melissa, what's going on? I don't know what's going on.
That's a bubble
They
gun.
almost arrested an elementary school girl last week for having a paper gun at school. That's.
But what is this about a bubble gun? The Hello Kitty thing?
Yes.
I thought that was a joke.
It's not a joke. This is not a joke, Alex Jones.
Terroristic threat.
Alex, I'm not going to be subjected to this.
It's a detergent.
Yeah, this
Guys,
is
come on. It's a bubble gun.
If that detergent gets in my eye,
That's assault.
Turn it
That's
off.
assault.
Turn it off.
This is the
It
workplace.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the workplace.
The
That is
government says it's
inappropriate.
bad,
That is
Alex.
inappropriate.
Well, then talk some sense to them.
No, that you should see what they're saying.
Okay, well, what party favors can I have then? Look, it's bubbles, guys.
All right, everybody stay calm.
Hold on. Get David.
Call the police.
David, talk sense to him. What the hell is going
Gotta
on?
stop this. No, he's getting too loud.
What the hell?
Somebody call.
It's crazy. It's
911. 911. 911.
Talk sense.
911.
I'm being held hostage by Alex Jones, the conspiracy theorist.
It's a bubble gun.
NBC says we should never.
It's a bubble gun.
Alex Jones, CNN.
Turn that off. Turn that off, man. Turn that off.
From the the water table to our soils to the atmosphere itself, our world is becoming more and more toxic each and every day. But it's not just the air outside that's toxic. Indoor air has been shown to have 2 to 5 times higher concentrations of pollutants than even outdoor air. And most Americans spend 90% of their time inside using toxic chemicals within their homes. There are more than 42 million smokers in the United States. Well over 1,000 types of mold and mildew linked to numerous conditions. And don't forget the fact that 6 million Americans live with pets they're allergic to as well. When I began to research these statistics, it was clear to me it was time to start cleansing my lungs in order to combat the toxic environment that we cannot escape, but that we can fight back against. Made with organic and wild cultivated herbs and manufactured in the USA, the new InfoWars Life Lung Cleanse is here in a convenient spray bottle that can be brought with you throughout any toxic environment. Now available exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.
Another major health threat, this one in Toledo, Ohio, where everybody in the entire city has been told not to drink the water.
Ohio's governor declaring a state of emergency.
Did you know that the average person uses about 80 to 100 gallons of water at home every single day? If there's a water emergency, will you be prepared?
Panicked residents forming long lines throughout the day.
We're here at a supermarket in Toledo. You can see the shelves empty where water once was.
To stay safe and healthy during a crisis, you must have access to safe, clean water. Water which will not be available at your local grocery store.
There's a mad dash on right now to stock up on supplies.
The ProPure Pro 1 G2.0 water filtration system is a must-have for every modern, independently minded household. Protect your family's safety during an emergency. Go to InfoWarsStore.com today to purchase your ProPure Pro 1 G2.0 water filtration system or call 1-888-253-3139.
Welcome back. Our next guest was a CIA analyst for over 27 years. He joins us now to talk about FBI surveillance, among other agencies also surveilling us, and what's going on with Martin Luther King, and we're even going to get into Russia and ISIS. Joining us now is Ray McGovern, ex-CIA analyst, and we're going to talk about FBI surveillance and a whole host of agencies. Ray, it's just come out in the New York Times that there's at least 40 agencies conducting undercover operations. How much have you had to dealing with this, at your time in the CIA, and then even since you've been out of the CIA? What have been your run-ins with these undercover operations?
Well, this is a growth industry, of course. Never has there been so much money around, and these people need something to do, and so they end up monitoring and intrusively surveilling people like the Catholic Worker, the Quakers, the Thomas Merton Center in Pittsburgh. It's reached ridiculous lengths, and a lot of this stuff has to do with entrapment. A lot of it has to do with monitoring things that really should be private.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we've seen with the Amish even, them just trying to sell raw milk. They've been the target of stings, FBI stings, where they've gone in and taken people's farms just for selling milk. But getting into this letter that came out also from the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the suicide letter that the FBI actually wrote to Martin Luther King detailing a bunch of things that they said they had tape of him on. And it just really shows to the great lengths that they go to put people under that threaten the system as it is. What's your experience with this?
Well, my experience, of course, goes back to decades ago when J. Edgar Hoover was running roughshod over everyone. One of the questions here, of course, is Bobby Kennedy approving the intrusive surveillance, the wiretapping of Martin Luther King Jr.? I asked my friend Colleen Rowley about that, and she said, Ray, they were not only eavesdropping on Martin Luther King Jr., they were eavesdropping on the Kennedy brothers. They knew exactly what the Kennedy brothers were doing with those nice little girls in the pool there in the White House.
And Marilyn Monroe, they actually have detailed accounts of them visiting Marilyn Monroe, both of the brothers, even in the same night.
Right. So the name is blackmail, pure and simple. And the irony here is that Frank Church warned specifically about that, and that's specifically why there is a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act dated 1978, which of course has been pretty much revoked by current legislation. the current legislation being in gross violation of the Fourth Amendment of our Constitution. As Colleen explains to me, it just takes the judiciary several years to catch up with these illegal laws. Illegal laws, yes, it's not an oxymoron. They are illegal if they're unconstitutional.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, you were also a victim of being arrested for going after Petraeus, who was also a victim of this illegal surveillance. Let's get into Petraeus a little bit and detail how the system, they eat their own, essentially.
They do. The supreme irony, I was surveilled, and so they knew I was coming to just see Petraeus. I might ask a question, as I did Rumsfeld several years ago. But then I got to thinking, well, that's the supreme irony is that Petraeus himself was done in. Why was he done in? Because he became too big for his britches. And I don't just mean, Paula Broadwell affair. I mean, as far as the White House was concerned, he was so crassly ambitious and ready to seize the Republican nomination one time removed here, that they wanted to get rid of him. And so on the day after Election Day, when Obama was reelected, they presented him with the results of looking through all his emails to Broadwell and others. Now, Petraeus, of course, thought he had deleted them, but not so. General Alexander from NSA and Bob Mueller from the FBI did the dirty work for the White House and laid it out in front of Petraeus and said, now you have to resign. And so, when people say, I have nothing to fear, well, even four-star generals have a lot to fear. And people should be aware of that. The other thing I'll mention here, because it's terribly important to me, we had a fellow named Eliot Spitzer. Now, he was governor of New York, and he also was going after the Wall Street firms who were clearly ripping us off right and left. Now, what happened to him? Well, they eavesdropped on him. Same guys, Alexander from NSA, Bob Mueller from the FBI, and they got him, right? They got him good. Now, where are Alexander and Mueller working now? They're working for Wall Street. They have a wonderful cyber defense firm for which Alexander alone is making $1 million a month. And so you talk about the appearance of conflict of interest. Well, forget appearance. These guys did the bidding of Wall Street. They did the bidding of the White House. They're out of government now, and they're making it big with Wall Street by having this pretend cybersecurity firm, which is bringing in lots of bucks. I don't know what you do with your second $1 million, but they certainly know what they're doing, and they have multiple $1 million by virtue of services performed while in the government and getting Eliot Spitzer, who is about to nail Wall Street big time.
And who knows what else they have, money or otherwise information, because you know how this revolving door works. Once you leave Washington, you still have your ties in there. And it also reminds me, Petraeus said he thought he deleted the emails. Well, all those celebrities out there thought they deleted those naked pictures off their phones, but the cloud doesn't delete anything. And this is something that I think people aren't aware of, this cloud computing system that's been set up. It's basically there to gather all your information. It's not there to save it for you. It's there to collect it so they could put algorithms on you.
Sure, and it's in gross violation of the Fourth Amendment, and that's the important. For people who say, I've got nothing to hide, well, after Ed Snowden revealed the first tranche of his documents, they asked an old Stasi, Stasi being the East German Security Service, those who have seen The Lives of Others, that wonderful film, Das Leben der Anderen, know how intrusive those Stasi fellows were with their earphones and so forth. Well, Wolfgang Schmidt, who was a lieutenant colonel in the Stasi, was asked, what do you think about people who say, I have nothing to hide? And here's what he said. This is incredibly naive to say the government will not use this against you. This is why they collect the informations in the first place. The only way to prevent it from being used against it is to prevent it from being collected in the first place. That's exactly what it is. And he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's it. And back then, they were still in an analog world. They had not yet crossed over into this digital realm where storage and surveillance and cameras and everything. I mean, we're walking around with our own surveillance pagers, essentially, for the government. Our iPhones, our Androids, whatever, they really are probe droids, imperial probe droids gathering information so they can, A, come after us anytime they feel like it. Anytime we become expendable or become a threat to the system, they could either A, plant stuff on us, or B, say, well, we didn't like where you went over here. We didn't like this transaction that you did. We're just going to bring you in for questioning and confiscate your property. There's nothing you could do about it. You got to prove you're innocent. That's the state of the world that we're living in today. Do you share that assessment?
Well, yeah. You know, the best chance to prevent this was a bill that was just defeated in Congress last night with a predominant Republican majority saying, no, you can't fix this system. We want this mass surveillance. Why? You know why.
They want to use it.
It's what they say is it's against terrorists.
Oh, yeah, right.
It's against you and me.
Right, we're the terrorists.
It's against Spitzer. So, you know, the reality is such that Frank Church had it right, that this is an incredibly powerful tool. And in the hands of the wrong people, and there will always be wrong people around, it's a tool for tyranny. We ought to face up to it, and we ought to put a stop to it.
Well said. What's on your website right now? What are you writing about? What are you most concerned about?
Well, gosh, I've been writing a lot about Ukraine. I'm letting you write a lot about, NSA. Whenever I'm interviewed, usually my son puts that up on the website. There are a lot of issues that ISIS is another, you know. When the report came out from Patrick Coburn, who knows more about the Middle East than anybody in the White House, when he said that he was told that there were 200,000 ISIL, okay? Well, maybe that's a slight exaggeration, but it's much closer to the 15,000 that the CIA and the Army is saying. So what am I saying here? I'm saying it's a similar situation to Vietnam. And when you're as old as I am, you remember that Westmoreland deliberately deflated the numbers of communists under arms in South Vietnam because he was projecting a picture of progress, okay? There were twice as many as he counted. And we learned that during the Tet Offensive in January, February of 1968, when 500,000 communists under arms attacked every city, hamlet, and provincial town in South Vietnam. And they did it not with 200,000 or 299,000, which was the cap that Westmoreland put on how many enemy there could be, okay? The Viet Cong didn't agree that there could only be 299,000. So they hit us big. Now, what's the significance of that? If we knew that, if the American people knew that, that was halfway through the war, right? Now, if we stopped that war, that whole left, it's the western wing of the V that forms the Vietnam Memorial, Vietnam Veterans Memorial, it wouldn't be there because there'd be no names to inscribe in that granite. That's how serious that was. We're talking 25, 30,000 people more dead when we could have stopped that war. What are we doing with ISIL? Well, now there are only 3,000, maybe there's 6,000. The president doesn't know what he's doing. He's got very bad advice. Even some of the generals are hesitating now and saying, you know, this is a fool's errand, just like Afghanistan, just like Iraq. Now we're going to do it again. Give me a break.
And now it's going to be on several fronts. It'll be in Syria. It'll be again in Iraq, maybe even go into Turkey. I mean, this thing is just looking bad all over. So you think we're just at the beginning of what we're seeing in fighting with ISIL? You think it's going to be boots on the ground?
Well, there are already boots on the ground. Whether there'll be a big reinforcement, certainly General Dempsey believes that that's going to be necessary if we're going to prevail, whatever that means.
Yeah.
People are talking 30 years. You know, they refer to the 30 Years' War. Well, we've been there, done that. That's what happened in Europe when finally they decided, you know, it doesn't make a lot of sense to go killing each other, and they had the Treaty of Westphalia. 1648, I think it was, where they agreed there would be international boundaries and they would be respected. And there were exceptions, of course, during the last century, but we thought that after World War II, with the establishment of the UN and the Nuremberg Tribunal, which prohibited wars of aggression, we thought that the rule of law would prevail. It only prevailed until 9/11 when...
So you have a false flag.
changed, right?
Yeah, you got the perfect reason to go after them. You just, create the enemy, you fund them, and then when they attack you, you go, oh my goodness. Well, good thing we have this giant army ready to go after you guys, and then
that's just it.
send them in.
You've got the arms manufacturers and the arms peddlers. They're making it big time out of all this. When you look at what happened earlier this year, now look at the well-trained, the well-equipped and wonderful army that Petraeus had trained, right? 4 divisions of them. They're up in northern Iraq. And what happens? ISIL takes a couple of AK-47s and shoots it their way. They run away. Well, I don't want to exaggerate. They didn't all run away. The commissioned officers took helicopters away, okay?
Right. And they left all the equipment for them to grab.
My point is, they left their heavy tanks.
Yeah.
They left their artillery. They left their Humvees behind. So what did the U.S. do? Well, you couldn't let ISIL get it, so we destroyed them with fighter bombers. Wow. Who profiteers from that? We'll be selling the Iraqis some new weaponry.
Exactly.
I mean, is this a great country or what?
It's an evil cycle. Hey, Ray, thanks for giving us an update on all those subjects. And where can people find out more about your work?
RayMcGovern.com is the easiest way.
All right. Well, we'll be talking with you again. Thanks for the update. And this concludes the InfoWars Nightly News on this Wednesday, November 19th, 2014 edition. If you're not a member of PrisonPlanet.tv, please consider becoming one. We've just upped the limit on the number of subscribers that you can have on one, or actually the number of members that you can have logging into your login. It's up to 20 now. So we've added 9 more spots. So you could have up to 20 people on your one account. Pass out your username and password to everyone you know, and they could all tune in to the InfoWars Nightly News and enjoy the TV show, Alex Jones radio show, the special reports, the movies, the rants, the ebooks. Everything's all right there at PrisonPlanet.tv. So please consider becoming a subscriber today. That's our show for tonight. We'll see you next time. This is Rob Dew signing off.
Celebrate the spirit of freedom and liberty upon which our nation was founded at InfoWarsShop.com. Molon Lave is ancient Greek for come and take it. This popular design combines both classic Greek Spartan imagery with modern M16 assault rifles. Now available in women's tees and proudly made in the USA. Celebrate the spirit of 1776 with the George Washington brass belt buckle or this incredibly sharp-looking 1776 hat. Badass. And be sure to check out the new arrivals at InfoWars Life, where you can prepare your body to perform at peak levels with Survival Shield Nascent Iodine, Super Male Vitality, and Fluoride Shield. And wake up, America. Immune Support Blend is the healthy choice for the gourmet coffee lover. So get incredibly high-quality, freedom-based products and help fund the revolution at InfoWarsShop.com.
You are watching the InfoWars Nightly News, which airs 7 p.m. Central at InfoWarsNews.com. Members can share their passcode with up to 11 other people, and your support is helping us defend liberty worldwide.